Okay, to start off my dyeing process, I am going to just test out a few different like strips of fabric at the different time amounts, as well as like even amount of tea bags. So I'm first going to start off with just one tea bag, and I will put, well, let me fill it up first. So it shouldn't really matter what temperature you use. So I'm just going to start it off with cold, and I've got the tea bag in there. And to experiment with the amount, like the hue, the amount of darkness, whatever that I want to try for. I'm just going to stick the fabric in now and we'll see how it responds with the tea bag. I'll give this a bit of time. Now I'm going to start and just put the drawstring in, since this is just to kind of be a double check on the like the hue or whatever, if it's the correct darkness or if I can get any darker or whatever, because this is the smallest non-noticeable part on the entire pair of pants, so if I screw this up, it's not a big deal. So just going to try these in. One thing to mention though too, it can be the darkness, if this turns out darker at the same times as the swatches, it's possible because the tea bag has been in there for longer, so the tea has had a longer time to, if ferment is the correct term or whatever, just the water has been able to absorb the tea for longer, so the water is not the same, it's not exactly the same as it was when I first put the tea bag in, since it's had time together. Anyways, so yeah, we'll see where this leads. Okay, let's see how the drawstring turned out. Seem to be some sections where it's a little bit darker than others, and it looks like there's some sort of I don't know, substance that's a little thicker. Okay, it's just a thread. I thought that was some sort of darker. Okay, let's see here. So, as I'm checking this, I'm also trying to squeeze some of the dye out, or the tea that dyed it. Okay, I have no idea what this goo is, but only water and tea were in there, so can't be anything because I put a lid on it. Okay, so yes, this is my drawstring, and and I'll now let it air dry and see if the hue of it, if it turns like any darker or lighter even. So we'll see where it goes. Now I'm going to fill the basin with the tea for dyeing my pants. Since the test strips that I did were all in this container, I am going to use this container and fill it up and dump it into the basin. And since it was only one tea bag that I needed to get the color, like the darkness or whatever of the dye from the tea, I am going to, I think it'll take about 4 servings, fillings, whatever to call it, of this. So 4 tea bags. Okay, number 1. I'm not sure if the paper from the tags will make a difference. Actually, now thinking, once I finish dumping these in, I'll take the tags off. And that definitely does not look like enough to cover my pants. Let me first take these off. Now I'll count how many more cups it takes. How many large wonton soup containers it takes to get at least like halfway to 3/4 full. Since I don't want to fill it up all the way to the top, because then when I put my pants in, it would go over. 2. Uh-oh. It seems that one of the tea bags actually has like exploded, so there's like pieces all over. Who's the culprit? It's you. Now, after cleaning out the basin because of the tea explosion, I've filled it up with 10 containers of water, and so I've put 10 tea bags in. It's looking like the best way to do this is to put the tea bags in afterwards, so then you won't accidentally like put pressure on it, like how I think that's what happened to the bag. It's because I was pouring the container on it, and then the pressure from the water like made it explode. So all the tea bags, make sure that they've all been dipped in as go. There, so now they've at least been underwater and they can soak a little bit. The tea is now brown after I've let it sit for about like half an hour or something. So we stir this a little bit, get some kind of even color. Now I will put my pants in. I actually think I might want to like maybe tie all the tea bags together. I'm not sure if them like touching the pants would make spots darker than others or something. This will be good for even if I need to just take them out at some point. In case it touches something, I'm just going to put those towards where the back is, so it would be less noticeable if it like makes it darker. I'm trying to determine if I ought to put something in to like weigh it down because it keeps floating to the top. Just don't know what I have that would be kind of heavy-ish but not be damaged by the tea or float to the top as well. Okay, what I ended up doing was I filled up a water bottle with water and just put it on top of there. So hopefully that will do well enough. There are some pieces that are like sticking up above the water, but we'll see what happens with those. So I'm gonna put those in and yeah, be back when they're out. There seems to be some sort of solid layer or just odd texture that came up on the top after leaving it a few days. Hopefully it won't cause any odder disturbances in the dye process. Here's what they look like so far. I am going to rinse them out and we'll see what that does to anything. And then I'll have to solidify, or set, I think is the term. So now I've rinsed out all of the dye that I could. Unfortunately, after letting it dry, there do seem to be some spots here that will not go away, but that is my fault for actually not mixing the water. I left it alone for about 4 days, but since I was not around to attend it at all, I was not able to mix the water. If this had not stayed like idle the entire time for the entire time that it was in the water, for these would not be here. Hopefully they will be covered up enough by the strap things that they won't be so noticeable. Now I need to set the dye, which means I will have to soak the pants in. What I've got here is 1 gallon of white vinegar. The mixture has to be at least like 2 parts vinegar and 1 part water. So in this basin here, I poured out the entire gallon of white vinegar and put in some water as well. On top of that, I now have to put 2 tablespoons of salt. And this mixture, the setting, is for so that the dye will not wash out. Currently, having just taken it straight out of the dye, well, the tea or whatever, it is washable. If I was to put it in, like, through the laundry or whatever, it would all come out. But for this, now the dye will not come out. And I think also it's to mean that I cannot dye over top of it either, but I might be mistaken about that. So I'm going to now soak my pants in the vinegar and salt solution, and it only needs to go in there for like 15 minutes. And so put those in there. And also with the vinegar, it will, if there's any smell to your, like the dye left on the fabric or something, it will get rid of it. And then after the fabric dries, the vinegar smell will go away too. After the 15 minutes are up, now just take it and rinse it out. Okay, so there's not really any colored water coming out as I rinse it, so that's good. pretty much meaning all of the dye is set. And it was recommended in directions that I looked at to run, after you rinsed it out, to run your project through the dryer to dry out, but I don't want to do that with my pants because I'm worried that they'll shrink because I did not pre-wash the fabric before making them, which I should have done. But therefore, if I had done that, they would have been shrunk enough and would not shrink again if I put them through the wash. But since I didn't wash it before I cut everything, stupid fly, go away. Anyway, and now just let them dry.